You're staring at your phone again. Their name pops up. Same name that once meant home. Now it just means confusion. You read the message, slowly. Hey, I hope we can still be friends. And everything in you freezes. You sit there in silence, heart tight, chest heavy, trying to make sense of something that doesn't feel simple at all. Why does this hurt so much? Is this all I am to them now? Do they really mean it, or is this just easier for them? Am I supposed to say yes or walk away? Your mind keeps spinning. Your emotions don't agree with your logic. And here's the truth most people miss. They're not offering you less because you meant less. They're offering you distance while keeping emotional access because closeness feels unsafe to them. You're not failing at love. You're not overreacting. This is a deeply human reaction to a very confusing relational shift. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why an avoidant offers friendship after a breakup, what it really means beneath the surface, how to interpret it without losing yourself, and how to respond in a way that protects your peace while still honoring your heart. Let's get into it. Most couples believe that when someone offers friendship after a breakup, it means they still value you and want to stay close in some meaningful way. But the real truth is this. For avoidant individuals, friendship is often a way to regulate emotional distance while avoiding the vulnerability that comes with romantic intimacy. Here's the deeper layer. Their nervous system is doing the deciding long before their words ever do. When the emotional intensity of a relationship rises, expectations, conflict, depth, consistency, their internal system starts to feel overwhelmed. Not because you did something wrong, but because closeness itself can trigger a sense of losing autonomy or safety. So what looks like a calm, logical offer, let's stay friends, is often an emotional strategy to reduce pressure while still maintaining a connection that feels manageable. And here's what nobody explains clearly enough. When an avoidant says friendship, they're often trying to keep you in their life, without stepping back into the emotional space where they felt overwhelmed before. Meanwhile, your nervous system hears something very different. It hears loss.
It hears downgrade. It hears uncertainty. So now you're stuck in two different emotional realities, trying to interpret the same moment. This isn't about who loves more or less. This is about two nervous systems protecting themselves in different ways. And once you understand that, everything starts to make sense. Main body, 7 points. 1. Emotional safety versus emotional access. Most couples assume friendship after a breakup is a neutral, mutual decision, but in reality, it often serves different emotional purposes for each person. The deeper truth is that one person may be seeking safety through distance, while still wanting controlled access to the connection without the intensity of commitment. For the avoidant, closeness can feel activating. Their nervous system associates emotional depth with pressure or loss of control. So friendship becomes a way to stay connected without triggering those internal alarms. For you, however, friendship can feel like proximity without clarity. You feel close enough to hope, but not secure enough to relax. Something in you quietly wonders if you're being kept at a distance on purpose. Disconnect looks like accepting friendship while secretly hoping it turns back into something more. Connection looks like recognizing the emotional mismatch and choosing clarity over confusion. Hey, we can still talk like before. Yeah, but what are we to each other now? And when you start choosing clarity over ambiguity, the relationship either finds honesty or reveals its limits, and both outcomes protect your emotional well-being. 2. The avoidance comfort zone isn't distance, it's controlled closeness. Most people think avoidant individuals just want space, but the deeper reality is they often want connection that feels fully within their control. Here's the part no one talks about. Too much emotional unpredictability makes their nervous system withdraw. Not because they don't care, but because intensity without perceived control feels overwhelming. So friendship becomes a structured version of closeness, predictable, low pressure, and emotionally regulated. But here's what changes everything. When closeness no longer feels threatening, their system can stay engaged without shutting down. I can be around you without feeling trapped. Disconnect happens when you interpret their need for control as rejection. Connection happens when you understand it's a regulation strategy, not a value judgment.
Let's just keep things simple. Simple feels safe, but is it real connection?
And when you stop personalizing their need for control, you begin to respond instead of react. And that alone shifts the emotional dynamic. 3. Friendship can be a soft exit or a slow return. Most couples assume friendship means one clear thing, but in reality, it can serve two very different emotional directions depending on intent and boundaries. For avoidance, friendship can sometimes be a transitional space, a way to maintain connection while they process emotions at a distance. But without clarity, it can also become a soft exit, where emotional responsibility is minimized while access is preserved. Your nervous system, however, doesn't experience it as neutral. It experiences ambiguity as instability. Part of you keeps waiting for the meaning to change. Disconnect is staying in friendship while secretly interpreting every interaction as a sign of reconnection. Connection is recognizing the present reality without projecting future expectations onto it. Are we rebuilding or just staying in touch? Because those are two very different emotional spaces. And when you ask that question honestly, you step out of uncertainty and back into self-respect. 4. The emotional imbalance you can't ignore. Most people don't realize that friendship after a breakup can create an emotional imbalance, where one person is still invested in meaning while the other is managing distance. This imbalance is subtle but powerful. The avoidant may feel relief, lightness, or neutrality. You may feel attachment, longing, or unresolved emotion. And here's why that matters. Your heart is still in the relationship, even if the label has changed. Disconnect looks like trying to match their emotional tone while suppressing your own needs. Connection looks like honoring your internal truth without trying to shrink it to fit their comfort zone. Why does it feel like I care more? Because you're still emotionally engaged, and that's not something you can force to disappear. When you acknowledge the imbalance instead of denying it, you stop abandoning yourself in the name of staying connected. 5. Boundaries reveal reality, not distance. Most couples avoid setting boundaries because they fear it will push the other person away. But boundaries actually reveal the true nature of the connection. Not louder conversations, not more explaining, not chasing clarity, but a grounded sense of what you can and cannot emotionally participate in without losing yourself. For avoidance, clear boundaries often feel grounding rather than threatening because they remove ambiguity. For you, boundaries restore internal stability. Something in you finally feels like you're choosing yourself again. Disconnect is agreeing to friendship without checking if it aligns with your emotional needs. Connection is choosing terms that protect your peace, even if it creates distance. Maybe we should take space. Yeah, I need clarity more than closeness right now. And when you stand in that truth, you stop negotiating your worth and start honoring your emotional limits. 6. Presence without pressure changes everything. Most couples believe that pressure creates progress, but in reality, pressure often triggers withdrawal, especially for avoidant individuals. Presence is different. Presence means showing up without forcing outcomes, without trying to extract commitment, without escalating emotional intensity to get reassurance. Their nervous system notices this. It feels safe to stay here. Disconnect is pushing for clarity from a place of anxiety. Connection is creating an environment where clarity can emerge naturally. You're not chasing me anymore. And that makes it easier to stay open. And when presence replaces pressure, emotional walls begin to soften without confrontation. 7. Friendship only works when both people want the same thing. Most couples assume friendship is automatically possible after a breakup, but it only works when both people have aligned emotional intentions. Without that alignment, friendship becomes a space of quiet tension, unspoken expectations, and internal conflict. For one person, it's closure. For the other, it's hope. Unspoken longing starts living in the silence between conversations. Disconnect is pretending alignment exists when it doesn't. Connection is acknowledging when emotional goals are different and acting accordingly. So what are we really doing here? Because if we want different things, we need different boundaries. And when you face that truth directly, you stop confusing proximity with progress and start making decisions that support your emotional clarity. What you're really learning here isn't just how to respond to an avoidant offering friendship. You're learning how to stay grounded in yourself when someone you care about can no longer meet you in the same emotional space. This isn't about becoming distant or cold. It's about becoming clear, self-aware, and emotionally anchored in your own needs. When you internalize this, you stop reacting from confusion and start responding from understanding. And the way you show up begins to reflect self-respect instead of uncertainty. That changes everything about the kind of connection you attract and maintain. And here's the truth you'll carry forward. Love doesn't ask you to abandon yourself to keep it. It asks you to stay real enough that what's meant for you can actually meet you where you are. Mic drop line. Real connection doesn't survive by holding on at any cost. It survives when both people choose clarity over comfort and truth over fear.